My name is John Passfield, and the title of this reading will be John and Dickens, Video 10, The Christmas Carol Problem, Part 2. So here is my novella. Here's the cover, John and Dickens, A Christmas Mystery, just moving it around so you can get a clear view of the picture. So it's me, John, in the writing room of Charles Dickens. Dickens in 1843, a younger Dickens than we see in the photographs, surrounded by his characters, the characters who precede A Christmas Carol, but not the Christmas Carol characters. There's a problem with them, and that's why they don't appear in that first visual, I guess you'd say. Here's the summary of the story. Writer John Passfield leaves his home, buys a coffee, and drives down to the shores of Lake Erie to perform a Christmas ritual, strolling along the beach at Port Maitland. It's something he's done for many years, but this year is different. This year, John suddenly finds himself in the writing room of famed Victorian novelist Charles Dickens, who sets out his new idea for a Christmas tale. Dickens invites John to watch rehearsals for the writing of the story, but as Dickens struggles through contentious negotiations with his amazingly independent characters, John wonders whether A Christmas Carol will ever be written. Okay. In an earlier video reading, I said that there were two major mysteries in this novella. One is the question as to why Dickens is having so much trouble writing his new novella, A Christmas Carol. Another is as to why Dickens would tell John that he has created John as a Dickensian character, when John seems to feel that he's not a Dickens character at all, but is a completely real person on his own. A third mystery that occurs as one reads the novella is whether any of the seeming clues are taking one closer to the solving of these mysteries, or are acting as distractions, blind spots, red herrings, in the attempt to solve the mysteries that the experience is presenting to John. Let's dive into the book and see if we can turn up any relevant clues. Okay, so the big mystery for me is, what is Dickens thinking? Let's go to page 40. This is a continuation of an earlier video presentation. Okay, so John's in the room. Dickens is explaining what he's up to. Dickens says, I can show you a scene or two, John. Come with me as I make my rounds. I'm visiting the characters who are waiting for their story to start. I would normally have been writing by now, you see, but I have met a bit of a block. The kind of block that has never been mine at all in the past. Oh, I can write the story all right. I have the characters and their traits, and I know what I want to happen in every stave. It's just the recalcitrance, the obstinacy, the stubbornness, you see. There's resistance among the characters. It's such a ridiculous situation, John. I'm forced to negotiate with the creatures whom I, myself, have made. Okay, that was page 40. Here's page 41, just across the page. Oh, I'm sure you can help me, John. This is the plan. This is the object. This is the need. A calming presence is what I seek, and what I hope in you I have found. Watch me as I work, John. Observe the process that I follow. See me interact with each character in his milieu. I'm sure when they get to know you, John, a Canadian, diplomatic, phlegmatic, extremely serene, you can offset some of the grating between my characters and me. I'm nothing if not excitable. That is your task, John. That is your function, to be a more diplomatic me. You can reason with them, John. Make my case to them, as it were. A Dickens substitute, for the moment, is what I am sure will be a much more mellow mode. Okay, so Dickens reveals himself to John. Okay, let's go to page 4748 for more of these revelations from Charles Dickens to John. I have certain things in my life, John, elements, shall we say, in the form of memories that haunt me night and day, that govern much of what I think and feel as I live with my family, as I interact with publishers and friends. However, these elements never rise to the surface in what I do or what I say. But, excuse me, clear my throat here, and here's the problem, I'm aware of what no one else is, that these elements, these thoughts, these memories, these concerns are in danger of being embodied in fictional imaginings, John, embodied in my characters and their lives. Oh, I'm sure when I think back that this has always been the case. I'm sure that storytelling is inevitably, if one takes oneself and one's writing seriously, blunt confession, John, the anguish of the heart, the telling, the revelation, the exposure of one's deepest fears and desires. But so far, luckily for me, my blunt confessions have always been quite well disguised. Fortunately for me, I create such characters and events that no one seems to recognize these creations as essentially portraits of me. Or even if they do, all they have is generalities, miserliness, helplessness, kindness, ghosts of the present, and ghosts of the past. Okay. A little further down the page, Dickens continues on. People write me all the time, John. They accost me in the street. They want me to talk about my characters, why I write this and why I write that. They want to know what is concealed behind my books. So far, their darts have bounced off my chest, John. Their arrows have never penetrated beyond these battered walls. But, and here's the conundrum, here's the fear that keeps me awake. With each new story, with each new setting, with each new character I create, I know I am, John, it keeps me awake all through the night, closer and closer to the fires that burn like coals in the very darkest depths of my secret soul. That's page 49. Let's go to page 51 here. Dickens continues. Now, don't misunderstand me, John. What everyone knows is what I am. Every reader can say that he knows of what I am made. It's just that Charles Dickens is a restless throng of beings, John, as is, I assume, every creature on the earth. Well, perhaps not everyone, John. Many are pleased with their lot in life. I suspect this to be true, John, about you. But a group of selves inhabits my restless soul, and that is what I am, John, a restless soul. I have everything I dreamed of when I was, well, let us say when I was a boy, and yet I can never sleep a whole night without terrible dreams. Okay, and in the last passage I'm reading here, though the story will continue on if you read the novella, Dickens again. Writing is peeling away the layers, John. So far, all my secrets have held. Layer after layer of scenes and characters in a fictional world. Readers laugh and cry at the wonders they behold. This book, John, this Christmas story, will be one more peel of the onion. And the characters, John, are warning me, not just the ones you have seen, that I am the one who is suffering, living and dying each day in its moment, deep at the core. I've always stood in the shadows, John, but my characters are warning me that I am edging, with this tale, John, this simple Christmas tale, ever closer to the light. Okay, I will stop there. And as I say, you can read the novella or watch some future videos and learn a little more about this. The big mystery is, what is Dickens thinking? What is he up to? Here's a note on related topics, related because the note is about literature and how it works. I'm going to try an experiment. I'm going to read the same note in 2 different video presentations, which will have exactly the same words of explanation, but which will have 2 entirely different examples from literature. So here's the first reading of the explanation. Here it is. All serious literature is presented in 2 modes. Number 1. In the surface mode of presentation, there are characters, settings, and actions. This is the mode that comes closest to the lives that you and I live through as we go about our daily lives of people, situations, decisions, and actions. Okay, second mode, number 2. Serious literature's second mode of presentation is that of deepening imagery. In every serious work of literature, there will be the suggestion that the surface story is a vehicle for stimulating thoughts about 2 things. So let's call them A and B. A, one is to stimulate thought about the life of the person who is reading the book. B, and the other is to stimulate thought about the lives of all human beings who have ever lived on the earth in all of what we call historical eras, of all human beings who are currently living on the earth in all countries and in all societies, and of all human beings who will ever live on the earth in future by nature of their common humanity. So here's the first example of the surface mode of presentation. Okay? In the Charles Dickens novel, A Tale of Two Cities, let me just hold my copy up here, a copy that I taught from when I was a high school teacher. In the Charles Dickens novel, A Tale of Two Cities, a group of people lived through the Revolution in France in the 18th century. Dickens' story is told so vividly in terms of surface detail that it's quite easy to turn it into a movie. In the movie, we see all of the characters, the settings, and the actions of the French Revolution as they take place in front of our eyes. Now, that's the surface mode. Here's the first example of the mode of deepening imagery. So here's a passage from that novel. It's presented in order to deepen the meaning of the novel for the reader. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on it being received for good or for evil in the superlative degree of comparison only. So that's a passage from A Tale of Two Cities of deepening imagery. This passage is an example of what I would call deepening imagery. The fact that it was placed at the beginning of Dickens's novel is irrelevant. The fact that deepening imagery is included somewhere between the covers of a novel means that the reader is invited, lost my place here, to see more in the story of the novel than just the surface characters, settings, incidents, and actions. The use of 2 modes of presentation, surface story and deepening imagery, is a basic staple of all poetic plays and poetic novels. It is not a basic staple of all prose plays and prose novels. Isn't it interesting, though, that the double mode of presentation is common to all genres of literature, from the epic to the poetic play to the poetic novel, and to all eras that have produced serious literature, from the time of Homer to the time of the ancient Greek playwrights to the time of Shakespeare, and to our own time, the 20th and 21st centuries. So that's the note. The first version of the note. In another video, I'll read the same note with different examples. Once again, this is my novella, John and Dickens, A Christmas Mystery. I'll just hold it up once more. It's found on Amazon, where you can find more information. It's found on my publisher's website, which is rocksmillspress.com, rocksmillspress.com. It's also found on my website, johnpassfield.ca, johnpassfield.ca, where there's more information in the form of 2 free books, full books, a planning notebook on this novella that I've written, and a reflective journal on this novella that I've written. So have a look for those 2 free books. Just click on the icon at johnpassfield.ca. Lastly, I'll say thank you for watching this video.